Hello and welcome to Cassette Take with Ethan and Annmarie, and today's Steven, back again after the wonderful Spider-Man review. Cassette Take, where you can eject whenever you want, but please do not forget to rewind. I'm Ethan.
I'm Annmarie.
I'm your guest, Steve.
That's
Yes.
Steven. That thing over there.
We
that
decided
little
to-
man.
we
That
just-
tiny man.
I'm bigger than you, man.
Is this a
Yeah.
callback?
No, yeah, so, Annmarie, care to get us started on today's topic?
Should we have a breaking news logo? Ladies and gentlemen, my Roman Empire, Dune, got a new trailer. Okay, let's talk about it because I am the Dune expert here and I think it's the greatest thing ever and I talk about it way too much. Dune trailer just released about 8 hours ago. 1.7 million views! You guys, you have no idea. Like, you don't, but you do, but you don't, and
I'm just not a Dune guy. I'm sorry.
you haven't seen the full thing.
I've seen the first one.
All right, to give some context here for all you folks listening in, Steve is a big proponent of the OG Dune
1987.
from 1987 with Roblox, Patrick Stewart,
Even though
and,
he hasn't seen all of it.
It was just a masterpiece. I'm sorry.
and Annmarie is a huge advocate for the Denis Villeneuve.
There you go.
I butchered it probably, but his Dune movies. And by the way, I'm kind of like the guy that hasn't seen the old Patrick Stewart ones, but I really enjoyed the Denis Villeneuve one.
I'm just so excited because, like, I have read the books and seen all of the 1987 Dune movie, by the way. Put
You're
it
welcome,
down.
You're welcome for that. I gave her a Blu-ray copy.
And I
Just to instill it.
There's so much of this movie that I think it's so encapsulating, just the visuals of it, what the trailer gives you. And the trailer doesn't give you everything. You guys are missing, like, huge chunks of this story.
Which is crazy.
Well, I think it helps that like part of the story is him seeing futures that might come to be, and not so it doesn't like really tell you what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of the neat part of it. Dune has always been considered this unfilmable thing because it is very internal dialogue. And so a lot of things that you're seeing, they're not in the book because it's an internal dialogue thing. And so that's what makes it super interesting. But even like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's and Steven knows because he's seen the 1987 movie, there's parts of it that are missing that Ethan has no idea about. And I think that's so exciting.
It could be a different timeline that Paul just didn't go through.
Yo, if they pull like a multiverse thing going on here, no,
Just
but
Timothy
it's
Chalamet at this point.
Willy Wonka shows up.
like orange portals from Endgame
Yeah.
begins to play. But no, it's funny though that you say that it doesn't show everything, because I felt this trailer, with my little knowledge about Dune, it showed so much that I'm like, wow, this little trailer felt like a short film within itself.
Do you feel like it showed too much?
I mean, honestly, it kind of feels like it did, but then again, I don't know where the story's going, and
Yeah.
I don't know what there is to show and what they haven't shown. So it's like, who am I to say?
Yeah, and that's the part of me that's like, I don't think we have even seen like a like third of this movie or a fourth of this movie. I really truly think there's so much more deeper just because I know the story, I know where it's heading, I know the ending, which will be interesting. I'm very interested to see because Dune's ending has been taken on different ways and all that, so I'm super excited to see that. And I think just the visual elements and again, I just don't think Denis is giving us everything, and I love it. This movie's his longest movie at like 2:45, and I'm like, you could make this 3.5 and I would sit through the whole entire thing.
They'll probably have an extended version when the DVD
I
comes out.
hope so.
Yeah, no, it baffles me, like, because what they did show though, it's like, wow, that's like, it's just epic. It is so epic. The scope is so grand, and it's just,
We're seeing it
I
in
don't know,
IMAX.
Oh my gosh.
I can just see Annmarie with her Lego orthocopter in the movie theater.
Ornithopter.
Or her cricket ship looking thing.
Oh, I'm just so
You're in the
excited.
theater and then you just like trip over and like shatters everywhere and afterwards
Cry.
they scoop it up like popcorn. Like wait,
I'm-
hang on.
I'm just so excited, you guys, because truly, again, like I have been saying this, and everyone's been like, Annmarie, no, Annmarie, no. I think this is as good or even better as Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
It
And
has potential.
I stand by it. If Denis sticks this landing, which I have full confidence he will, I think this could be, like, we can be talking about this like we talk about Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all that. And so I'm very excited for that too. And everyone's like, no, Annmarie, Lord of the Rings is the best.
It
Listen!
is the best, though.
Well, hang on, we
that
have
little high squeak voice, that's me.
Yeah. We don't know
we gotta
yet.
get that checked out. But
We don't know yet.
yeah.
We don't know.
But here's the thing though. After I watched that trailer that came out
Did it
today,
convince you?
I'm like, this thing has a pretty dang good chance, you know? Like, I'm watching this, like, again, I am just so hyped for this movie.
And you don't even know, like, I feel like it doesn't even give you any part of the story. Like, if, you know, a part of me is like, I feel kind of bad because I'm like, you guys have no idea what's coming. Like, you really don't. Like, you can guess, but...
I'm in a weird position with Dune because it has the recipe of me really liking it. I'm a huge, like, sci-fi guy. Everything you tell me about, like, the background of Dune is like, oh, wow, I would really like that. But when I watched the newest version, I'm like, I don't know, it just didn't really click with me. It's really strange, because I feel like on paper, I would love this movie, but
Yeah,
maybe we'll take the second movie for me to really get hooked into the story.
Well, again, I think a part of it is you only got a half of a movie.
That is true.
And it's truly only
He did
a
intend
half.
it to be one giant movie.
Yeah,
So.
it's only a half. And I also think the first movie does a weird thing where it psychs you out that there's going to be these big battles, and there's not really any big battles.
I do feel like the first movie ended in a weird place. It felt really uncertain of like, oh, where are these characters gonna go? It's not like, oh, the next movie's gonna be huge.
Well, you can thank Warner Brothers for that.
It reminded me of A New Hope, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like that same
The first
vibe
one.
where it's like,
I did not see a giant explosion of a Death Star.
I saw a giant
Oh,
like
just you
overtaking and
wait.
coup going on. So I mean, like that was like when I saw that on the big screen, I'm like, oh wow, that's incredible. I was not expecting it, and on that scale and how it was done and executed in more
The
ways than
visual
one.
effects were awesome.
Yeah, and it felt like it was more focused on the set, like the build up to a greater story, and but also was kind of condensed enough to tell its own story. Like A New Hope, you know, it's not about the grand spectacle that we are eventually going to see, but it's more so like a contained story that, you know, has a lot more to eventually give. But yeah, I am definitely on board with Dune Part 2. We're gonna be locked into those IMAX theater seats.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should go see it now, man.
I really hope this movie, I think this movie has a chance to hit $1 billion. I think people are sleeping on it right now. I truly believe this movie is going to be huge.
It does look to be the biggest movie coming out, like, that's been announced.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
There's not really big competition, but still, it
well,
does seem
Deadpool 3, but that's later in the year. But no, I truly think it is, and I think, you know, I talk about it all the time. I call this my Roman Empire, but I truly feel like this is going to be huge, and you guys are going to walk out of that theater and be like, Annmarie, give me the book right now. Like, I want to read it. And I'm going to be like, here you go. Like, please read it.
I'm actually reading the book, but I stopped where the first movie ended. So I'm holding my breath on it, but still, you know, I love the first movie.
Yeah.
And judging what I've seen for this third trailer.
Like, I hope there's another one. Give me another trailer in February. I don't care.
I just hope they don't release it on HBO Max like they did with the first movie.
Don't even talk about it, Steven.
They really fucked him over. Like
they did.
He probably cut the box office numbers in half because they released it on HBO Max.
Well, people were so pumped. That was the dumb decision where the HBO and Warner Brothers decided to do day-and-day release, and I think. And I'll figure it out, but I think Dune made $400 million, and I truly think it could have been like an $800 to $1 billion film. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. You know, there's so many cool things like Paul yelling "No" and using the voice, and Austin Butler and Florence. Oh, it's gonna be great.
So one of us is definitely really excited. Can you guess which one? Um, no. So yeah, Dune Part 2. What do you guys think of the new
Did
trailer?
you see the trailer?
Yeah, did you? I mean,
Go watch it now. Be one of those viewers.
yeah, join the millions because you have no individuality yourself. Anyway, so moving on to our next topic here.
Snort some dust, Be like Paul.
Don't do that. We do not encourage you to snort dust of any kind.
Spice.
But yeah, so our next topic here. This one I would like to introduce like this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the fight of the night here tonight in this corner. With her thoughts on Godzilla -1, Annmarie Lavarada. In this corner, right over here, with his absolutely stellar, popular raving review for Godzilla -1, Stephen Ora. And in the middle, your lovely looking ref, Ethan Tarlow, who will now stop using the stupid voice.
Should we shake hands, Stephen, before we get into this
yes.
battle?
You're wrong, but
So we saw Godzilla -1,
Yay.
and whether you did the math or not, it was a box office success. We went to go see it, and Steven and I, we both loved it.
I went in blind.
Yeah.
And when I left that theater, I felt like I could see.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes loved it.
Gosh,
We
everyone
all
loved it.
Yeah,
Except
everyone.
Except
Everyone.
All right. If we're gonna have a fair fight, is this gonna be fair?
No, but no, absolutely.
Can I defend myself?
Okay, Annmarie. Well.
Oh, thanks. Guys.
Well, yeah. As you're pulling up the Rotten Tomatoes here, the Godzilla -1, it's a movie about your boy Godzilla during the right. Basically, it's a recreation of the first movie.
It's a retelling of the original movie, not the Americanized one.
No, yeah.
The original.
Done by the original studio, Toho. And we were excited just on that, and then we heard about the reviews, went to go see it, and
It's doing well.
Yeah.
It's doing very well.
Yeah.
Steven went in
that's all.
blind, did not see a trailer. I saw some trailers, so I was still hyped. And we loved it. Now,
to preface this, I have been a huge Godzilla fan, so I have been very much experienced the franchise.
Yes.
Annmarie has only had experience
Hold
with
on, let me defend myself.
I'm giving you a point.
Hold on.
You've only had experience with the 2015.
And we have a right hook going into the... No.
Listen, alright, fine. If Steven's gonna defend himself, let me defend myself too. I truly do love Godzilla. I think the monster universe is such a cool universe. I've always been a fan of natural disaster films like 2012 and all that. And that's what Godzilla is, basically, right? And so I grew up watching, the 2014 Godzilla. I think Gareth Edwards is one of the greatest directors of our time and does scale so well. And I think Godzilla is one of his best films. And I also have watched some of the original old ones, of course, too. I've seen Godzilla vs. Mothra and other ones like that. And even though they're campy, I still enjoy them, right? And so I want to preference that because, listen, I went into this film being like, I love Godzilla. I love monster movies. Like, they're so much fun. They're so awesome. And then the trailer came out. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, the spikes on his back. Oh my god, it looks so cool. And then the reviews came out. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so hype. I'm so ready. And I went into that movie with that expectation. Maybe wrong on me, but you know what? I want to go into a movie expecting something great. And I came out not liking this movie. And I think there's multiple reasons why, and we have talked about it.
One of them is valid. I will give it that.
And so we're gonna talk about it. But listen, I don't want Steve to come in and be like, Annmarie hasn't seen God. No,
Not a true fan.
I've seen Godzilla movies. I know what I'm talking about, and so I get it. I should love this film. It has a 98% on Rotten Tomato. I should freaking be so excited about this film. Be like, it's Godzilla, it's so cool. It didn't do that for me. I walked out very disappointed.
It's weird because this is like the first time I've gone to a movie and we've just had completely opposite like opinions.
Complete opposite.
It's like we were watching like a different movie.
Here's the thing, though. One of your gripes, though, with the movie that you brought up was the fact that you didn't like this interpretation of Godzilla compared to, say, the 2014 one, which had a much more like, he was more humanized. He was a little more heroic.
Yeah, I like the Godzilla that fights another creature story. I think that's just more enjoyable because Godzilla is the main character as he should be. And I want to root for Godzilla. So in 2014, I rooted for him, right? And also, like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you've said, like, that's very valid and all that. Now, my unvalid points, which I think are very valid, to be honest.
Well, you just said that they were.
I know, I think they're very valid.
I don't bully her.
I think this Godzilla is the worst looking Godzilla. I'd rather take...
Okay, you can bully her.
I'd rather take... Who did it? Peter Jackson? Who did the 2001?
Oh, the one in New York.
There's a lot of
Godzilla
fish.
The 2000 Godzilla 2000.
Yeah,
I think that one looks way better than this one. This one looks like a person in a suit.
Ooh,
that's what Godzilla.
It looks awful. It looks horrible CGI. I think this is one of the worst looking films of this year.
See, this is where like. It's just like we saw two very different movies.
I
was sitting. So Steve was sitting in between both Annmarie and I look over to Steve right as the credits start rolling, and we're just kind of like a little speechless. We're like, "Oh, that was so good, bro. That might be our favorite entry in the franchise." And we're like hyping this, like our thoughts on this movie up. And then we both kind of like turn over to Annmarie, and she's just kind of like she tossed her hands up, and she's just kind of like she knew what was coming when she was gonna open it up.
Oh yeah.
You look like a kid at a Little League game who just lost because of his teammates.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed. I really was. I went and the whole movie's not bad. I don't think it's the worst movie of the year. I think the characters are so interesting. And like the main
You just think it's a bad Godzilla movie?
I think it's a horrible Godzilla movie. I kind of wish it wasn't Godzilla at this point. I think the characters are so interesting. I think the story is so interesting. The main character and how he grows into this family. Like, I love found family, like, stories. I just hate Godzilla in this movie. I think he's awful.
So do the characters.
I know, but like, I don't hate it because I'm like, wow,
Godzilla is a bad guy. He stomped on those Japanese people. How dare you?
I just think it looks really bad, you guys. Like, this budget was $15 million, and I honestly can tell it's like a cheap budget. I don't think it looks good.
I had the opposite opinion of that. I thought the CGI was amazing. Honestly, I thought Godzilla looked great.
I would have to agree with that. I think he looked more like a force of nature. And the stiffness of him, I think, really worked because it just kind of made it feel more like again, something that was not really too humanized or heroic or something like that.
A lot of people were saying that he was too flexible in the trailers. Like, he was like leaning down and like moving his arms in unnatural ways.
It was still pretty stiff,
I didn't think he looked too flexible to how his structure was, but that's interesting that you're saying he was stiff.
Yeah, I mean, because like Annmarie was saying, it kind of looked like it had that traditional guy in a suit element to it, but I don't think it looked like a guy was in a suit. It looked like
maybe the motion.
It looked like a giant person with that bone structure was like, still, if it had the same structure as a Godzilla creature, that's how they would move. And especially like how they moved much more swiftly underwater. Which, by the way, one of your points, Annmarie, was that Godzilla changed scale quite a bit, which he does.
He changes scale.
He does change scale
Not that way.
at the beginning, where he's a little bit. So there, honestly, at this point, before we jump into spoilers here, let's just say that Steve and I loved it. Annmarie just did not like it.
It's very average to me.
Now, and also characters done great. So before we jump onto the scale change, let's talk about something we all actually enjoyed from the movie, which was the characters.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it was a huge change of pace to actually enjoy watching the movie, the human part of the movie in the Godzilla movie. I was like, this is good. I'm surprised.
It was enjoyable because like it truly brought that human element to the story too.
It carried the movie.
Where
I honestly enjoyed the human parts more than the Godzilla parts.
Yeah. I think we all can kind of agree on that too, because a lot of Godzilla movies, that's the biggest mistake, is the humans just aren't that interesting. It's something that, you know, Monarch does really well, the MonsterVerse show, which
still need to watch that.
I haven't watched that yet.
You guys, we'll talk about it eventually, but I think that's what fails a lot of Godzilla movies or these natural disaster movies, and to have good characters and their stories like feel complete and like feel human was so interesting. And I think another point I want to make is like I love the time jumps too. I think that was so interesting as well. Like you take these characters from like, you know, it's like 10 years. Yeah. So I really enjoy it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the characters, I thought, you know, again, like Annmarie was just saying, and, you know, Steve was just saying, like, they're wonderful. Like, I think they're very well done, and that's not really something that's typically done in a Godzilla movie. I think, in particular, the character storyline of the idea of a kamikaze pilot, like, coming back during that era of Japan, you know, and not fulfilling his duty. I just thought that was so interesting, and like how he was just brought in together with this family that basically was just kind of like he was picking up these family members like along the way.
Gotta catch them all.
Almost like a seek and gotta catch them all. Like a seek and find, you know. And it was so interesting, and it was touching. I was really behind it. This film almost made me cry with how much I was into the character storyline. You know, went into this movie expecting a movie, like a popcorn movie, came out receiving a film, like with these characters and their journeys, and it was, I was there for it, absolutely.
I think their story really captures like the soul of what the original movie was trying to portray, because it was commentary on like the effects of Japan after the atomic bomb, and, like Godzilla represented the destruction that came their way. I think this movie really kind of drives home of how like destroyed Japan was after those bombings.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least one part of this movie was good. At least...
Yeah, if you could say the credits, I'm leaving.
Oh man, should we get into spoilers?
Oh, I'm down for spoilers.
I mean, I think we're.
Should I start off?
We spoiled it.
I think Godzilla changes size.
He does. Think so. He does.
No.
He does.
Not okay.
Well, he's part of the plot, yes.
Hold on.
So just to establish, in the first act, he's a little dino boy, but like a big dino boy.
Well, he's like the size of T-Rex.
Yeah, right. But you know, then we got some nuclear instances that happen, and all of a sudden, we got our Yosh becoming a big Yosh.
Yeah.
And
that is one criticism I do have of the movie. So they basically set this movie after the bombings, and then it kind of just does go into B-roll of like a bombing testing out of nowhere, and they don't explain that. Oh yeah, that was another bombing, a bomb test from the U.S. that created Godzilla.
They don't hold your hand.
There was no exposition there. That was like, if you weren't a Godzilla fan before this movie, you would never know what was going on and why he grew.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ending. I've never seen the size of something change so much. Like, you know how most people for Godzilla 2000, they're like, that one changes size? I think this one does it way worse. I think it changes size so many times when it's in the water, and when it's swimming, and when it's taking down that giant boat.
To be fair, though, when he's swimming, the majority of his body is submerged, so you can't really gauge the scale of his whole body.
I think he looks so different. I really do.
I didn't notice it. If there was there, I did not.
Yeah.
I did not see it.
I think it just and again, that's my big thing. I just don't think the VFX were that good in this film. I really like I think let's take when he was destroying the city, for example. I think the collapse of the buildings is really good. I think Godzilla sucks. I think all their artwork really went into like the damage of it instead of him. Like to me, he doesn't look real or feel real, and like with him changing his scales to me, I'm like, this is really bad. Like, this is not very good.
I have the opposite opinion.
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna disagree.
I'm sorry, I just have to disagree.
And that's the thing.
That's
Usually
fine.
with a lot of conversations we have about movies, and we get the whole idea that they are subjective and all that. But I don't think I've ever had a movie where I've seen it with you guys, and it's just so black and white. Nothing can be done about it, to where, you're in your camps, and it's just like, I see this one way, and you're seeing it a completely different way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how?
Yeah.
Like, I've never, and it's not like a simple matter of subjectivity. It's just a simple matter of like, how?
Yeah.
Like, I am genuinely curious what, and this is no offense to you, no offense to no offense to myself. But just how, like, I'm baffled as to how you could say the VFX were terrible and all that. Like, I cannot fathom that.
I really, like, as someone who's learning VFX right now and all that, good VFX is, like, so hard to do and come by.
Right.
And you can clearly notice it. I think most people can be like, that's bad CGI, that's good CGI. Like, take, I don't know, The Scorpion King or something with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, everyone knows
I
that's...
actually really like that movie. Side tangent.
It's not good CGI, though, Steven, is it? So...
It's The Rock. It makes it perfect.
Okay.
From now on, Steven's opinion is invalid. No.
And I think once you kind of start learning it a little bit more, you notice a little bit more. And I'm not saying, like, I could do any better. Like, I don't think I could do any
You just
better.
kind of
Well, actually,
trying to nitpick a lot of the CGI. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think just, like, once you start to, like,
Look behind
learn
the curtain.
about it.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Look behind the curtain more, you notice it more. And I'm just like, I just don't think it's that good. And, like, listen, like, I hate that I have this opinion. I want to be a part of the 98%. I want to be like you guys. I do. But truly, I just don't think it was that good. I think the Godzilla parts are terrible. I wish the movie was just about the main character.
And again, the Japanese characters in that movie would tend to agree with you.
No, but not like that, Ethan. You know that. I'm not saying, like, Godzilla is bad.
No, I
must
know.
hate. No, I don't, like, come on. I want this movie to be something I loved, because I did love the 2014 one. I did enjoy even the second one, or the Kong, and I enjoyed that. And so it's so disappointing to come out of
you
it.
have to admit, with the budget of $15 million, you have to say
Of
it's in comparison to a movie like Flash, where it had $200 million. The CGI is night and day. Like,
Of course.
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like what they did with such a small budget. I think is like, the CGI was awesome. You might have a different opinion, but with a budget that small, they did amazing.
Let me take that back. I think both of the CGI is bad in both movies.
Well,
of
course I agree with the Flash.
Yeah. But like,
Godzilla.
yeah, Godzilla. I guess, like, when I learned it was 15 million, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get why it's not that good. It's $15 million. What CGI is, you need time and money, and clearly they had time and not money.
Well, okay. And also, by the way, I think this is such an interesting thing about budget.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of, like, we're talking about, when we talk about budget, we tend to talk about, like, oh, the effects and what the movie looked like and all that visually. But from my perspective, working in the industry as I have, in the producing capacity, I've, like, noticed that the actors and star power is honestly taking up a good amount of the budget. Like, those bigger actors are requesting so much more.
How much are these actors, though, on Godzilla?
Yeah, but you have to. That's the entire budget. 2/3 of that probably goes straight to just, like, the sets.
So I want to know how much the actors were charged.
Probably like 100,000 at most.
Well, you don't charge the actors.
Well, not charged.
But,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. But yeah, so it is definitely something interesting, because I don't think there's big star power. I mean, again, I'm not knowledgeable in Japanese cinema. I don't know who the big stars are over there, but I'm pretty sure that they're not, Brad Pitt or something like that. So there's obviously a lot of budget that probably was directed towards the VFX. We only have the top sheet in front of us, so we can't really tell. But again, at $15 million, that's pretty impressive. All
I
things
think it looks
considered.
great, and just even with the fact of how little money they had, I think it's even better.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing I was going to bring up earlier, because it's just funny. And again, I don't want to give you a hard time, Annmarie. It's just funny, because you mentioned that why am I blanking out on it? You mentioned that. Oh yeah, like I'm not saying I could do a better job. One of the first things you said when we walked out of the theater is like, I could do a better job.
Well, yeah, I can change my things on it. No, truly, give me a year, I could probably do better CGI than that. I truly believe that. I just don't think it... The ending, you guys, when Godzilla exploded, you really thought that looked good?
Yeah.
I think it looked terrible. I'm like, oh my god, this sucks.
Really?
It looked awful. And I get it. Like, I get it. I should love this movie. I really should. And I wish the CGI didn't play as big as a factor. Because, like, the rest of the story is great. Like, it's so interesting, And we talked about characters. But, like, yeah, the CGI plays a big role when you do a freaking Godzilla movie.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that
Yeah.
statement.
And I do think I could do better.
Yeah.
Give me a year. I could probably do as good CGI as that.
Jury's out on that. But the whole
Give
thing
me a
is...
year. We're going to come back.
Jury's out. But again, it is a very interesting thing that, you have that opinion of the movie, we have ours, and it's just, I don't know. I think that's so much fun about movies, that the subjectivity of it all. But again, I'm just, and I love the fact that, like, you don't need to love or hate a movie, right?
No.
You shouldn't need to love or hate a movie, even though, like, the popular opinion is like this or that. I mean, it's all subjective in the end, and we all love different things. We all have our guilty pleasures, but it's just, the whole reasoning behind it. That's the only thing that I'm like, whoa, that's interesting.
Very average movie.
I mean, it's not your cup of tea. I can't fault
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're not gonna go after you, even
No,
though we
of
just did
course.
for like the past half hour. But
Listen, I just
also,
think it's a very average movie.
I don't think it's a perfect movie either. Honestly, I do
Right.
have some quite some gripes with even the human story of the film too. Like spoiler, but Noriko, the female lead of she should have died in that explosion, 100%. She literally the entire town just got blown out, and the guy also just goes in an alleyway and gets saved unharmed. What the fuck? That should not happen.
I told Ethan I feel like I could easily survive a Godzilla attack because all you have to do is go behind him, like far enough behind him, and you're fine.
Oh yeah. Also, I did notice a lot of the people were just running in a straight line. I mean, this is a problem with a lot of Godzilla movies. They always run in a straight line. They don't go to the right, so they don't get stomped.
Yeah.
to be fair, though, it's like he does gain a decent amount of ground with each step.
True.
If we're being honest.
Yeah, but he's so slow.
Again, it compensates with the amount of ground he gains per step, which they demonstrate with the excellent job of cinematography and scale. However, I would actually disagree with your point on the idea that she should have died in the end. I like the idea that, because again, this is more of the Godzilla that we're talking about it's more focused on the nuclear aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki equivalent, right?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of, you have your wife that you thought was dead surviving, but at the end they still show the radiation.
Yeah, that's just such a cop-out, though. It takes away everything from this guy's story.
Not necessarily. It definitely...
What, she's gonna die in the second one? That's the thing. You're gonna, what? No.
Who's to say they're going to follow those characters in the second one?
That is true, but if you set something up, Chekhov's gun. If you lay something out...
I would hardly call one character surviving a Chekhov's gun.
No, but she had radiation on her. You really don't think they're going to make
like...
a second movie about the same characters about that?
A lot of the Godzilla movies, they don't typically follow the same set of characters. It's
okay.
Yeah, like the Toho ones, I mean, it also could be depending on like the studios that pick up Godzilla. Well, I guess mostly it is Toho, but directors.
Yeah.
They typically try to make their own story with it, with the exception of the 2014 ones, which became a series of movies, which...
Yeah, but they don't follow the same characters either, so I guess you're right.
True.
Yeah,
And
I will take that back.
And
then.
I mean, even then with the radiation aspect, I was more bringing up the point that it's just like it could lead to her death. So it's like, even though there's a hopeful aspect of like, yeah, you're seeing your loved one. For a lot of people in Japan, after those bombs went off, you still had people that survived and they were able to get back together with their families. But again, the radiation eventually killed them off later.
Yeah, everybody probably has cancer, especially being that close to
Exactly.
Godzilla.
So I mean, I think that was more of that.
But my issue wasn't like her surviving as a story point. It was like the setup of her,
she
going
just
missing.
Comes back.
Yeah, going missing. Because like the explosion that it looked like everyone was dead except for the main character with like. For 2 miles back, entire buildings were gone. Like, there's no way that she should have survived that.
Oh, it's kind of like the Man of Steel argument. Like, all these buildings are destroyed, and it only killed 1,000 people.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, no way,
Yeah,
it did not kill 1,000.
Yeah.
It killed way
Yeah,
more.
and
And the way they, she's like thrown back too.
I mean, she does kind of not have, like, you do see there's a chance she could have, like, lost an eye. And, like, honestly, there was a lot of time that had passed in between, when that happened. So
I'm not saying it's not
but I do agree with you, though, that it probably could have been shown a little better where it's like, okay, I could believe that. The believability factor. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another big critique I have with the movie, they really, really did not try to hide the fact that he would survive at the end with the kamikaze pilot.
I think that's just unfortunate that so many movies now, like, they can't do, like, something surprising like that. I agree with you, but I honestly think it's just, like, we've seen so many movies like that, like, no duh, he was gonna survive. Like, there was something in the, like, why wouldn't you build an escape pod in the plane?
Yeah, it's like he was, like, pulling out a picture that his daughter drew him, like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna die, but... my memory of this daughter. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? There's actually an escape parachute right next to you. So,
to be fair, though, I not a big fan of, like, the resolution being, all right, you didn't die being a kamikaze, but you can still die being a kamikaze.
I don't know. That kind of played well with, like, I mean, he obviously had PTSD about, not fulfilling his duty as a soldier, and I think it would have been a tragic story for him to fulfill it after the war with, killing Godzilla. Mm-hmm. I felt like that would have been much more interesting than him to, or at least the way they wrote it, him to survive by having the mechanic forgive him with, like, the escape chute.
I agree. I think it would have been more interesting if he died. And then,
I think so.
Like, see what happened and all that. Because it would have been, like, thrown off. Because, like, going into that fight, I'm like, yeah, he's going to survive. There's a pulley system and okay, cool. And then if he actually died, I would have been like, oh, well, that's kind of different. So
see, the thing I would have done is I would have had him still survive. However, I would have done it differently. So as he's flying into, Godzilla's mouth, we had that scene earlier where the engineer tells him, like, hey, you pull this switch, it'll, like, arm the bomb. And, like, don't do that till you get, like, right before the mouth or something like that.
Yeah.
I would have had that be the ejector seat. So, like, he doesn't tell him, but, like, he was willing to do it, and he pulls it, and then he flies out.
Yeah.
That would have been a way better resolution.
Yeah,
I agree.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another issue I had in the movie, why did it have to be that mechanic to, like, literally... This entire... He was putting the nation's security at stake with Godzilla coming in, like, 6-10 days? They didn't even know. But he had to literally search the country for this mechanic that he wronged, like, in the war. Like, you could have found any other mechanic.
You couldn't have done it.
Like, your wife... or your daughter is on the line.
Yeah.
An entire city is on the line, and you're, like, focused on completing your life... Like, that was a big gripe. Obviously, I knew it was due to pay off the earlier setup with him kind of being the reason why he killed, or the reason why his entire squad died. So
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I guess the only, like, devil's advocate aspect of it would be you could have the fact that he trusts that mechanic to work on the plane that he's flying.
It's true.
So it's more so he's putting his life into his hands, and it would make more sense. But honestly, if it did get to that point, like, where it got closer and closer, because obviously there was still a day of separation or more.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, all right, buddy, you got to get yourself just a mechanic.
Don't get me wrong. It's much more well thought through than most Godzilla movies, so I'll give it credit.
Yeah. But yeah, any other gripes on your list?
I think
your list of grievances.
I think that was it.
I feel like I should say a positive thing since you said all the grievances. Okay. I do think the beginning with Godzilla, the first scene,
the T-Rex
part? Ugly one, yeah. Was very good. I think they use shadow very well, and like that horror element of it. That whole first scene, I was like, this is cool. Like, this is gonna be fun. Like I did enjoy that scene very much. So, and it looked real. It truly looked real to me.
They did divert from like the original material. Like I believe it was in the first movie, he was a kimono dragon. But now he's like a sea monster. That,
like a little more prehistoric creature that's kind of survived.
Like Loch Ness or something like that. I thought that was an interesting way to do it. I mean, obviously, it was really cool to see all those guys getting chopped. I'm not.
Yeah, but I guess bring it to a close.
Wait, we gotta go to the box office. Do.
Let's just in the box office.
53.
Worldwide, 53 million.
Damn, dude.
15 million budget, so obviously
Toho raking in the money.
It broke what it needed to get and all that.
That's like 3 times its budget.
yeah, they did well. They seriously did well. It did drop off from the Hunger Games and The Boy and the Heron for this week of box office, but of course, like it's gonna have a drop off. I'm kind of surprised it didn't hold its spot for a little bit longer, but
it was a limited release, and then they extended it more. Okay. So, cool. Well, because they saw like how much success it was. It's actually, I believe, it's the biggest grossing live action Japanese movie.
Nice.
Yes.
So, good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah. So I guess out of 10 guys, Annmarie, what would you give it?
Listen, I think coming out of this movie, I had a lot of like feelings right away, saying like I could do better CGI than that. I truly think give me a year I could. And I think, I came out being like, that sucked, that was awful and all that. Thinking it over and taking my time and not saying the first thing that comes to my mind, I do think it's just a pretty average movie. I think the character side is so interesting and so great, and I wish it was just that. So honestly, I don't think it's the worst film of the year, but to me, just like the hype and everything around it and the problems I've had, like a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10?
Yeah.
That's actually
so more positive.
That's actually a much better score than I thought you were going to give it. But...
Yeah, you can't take what I say right away out of the theater as Bible. I think I needed some time to think about it. I'm just disappointed on how just like average it was and how much I did not like Godzilla. And I came in being like Godzilla, and I came out being like, well, that sucked, I don't like him. So
all right. Steve,
my initial thoughts leaving the theater was like, oh god, that was a 10 out of 10 movie, like my favorite entry in the franchise. But as like a week or two has passed, I've kind of dwelled on like the grievances that I listed before. I gotta say, I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Like, definitely my favorite entry in the series so far, but not a perfect movie.
Yeah, I would have to go more so on Steve's side and give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely not perfect. We have our grievances with it, but overall, I enjoyed it. Again, I walked in there expecting a popcorn flick and just like cheering Godzilla like a Roman guy in a Coliseum match. I mean, but I was heavily entertained and also emotionally touched by this movie. So I would say it definitely was a 9 out of 10. Went in expecting a popcorn flick, came out getting a film. So those are our thoughts on Godzilla. Both Annmarie and Steve are both still alive. They have not wringed each other by the neck.
Good game.
They're shaking
Good fight.
hands.
Good fight.
You're still wrong.
You're wrong.
Jury's still out on whether or not all three of us will leave this room together. But what are your thoughts on Godzilla -1? Have you seen it? What do you think about it based on the trailers, the movie itself? We're excited to hear your thoughts, and maybe some of you agree with Annmarie. Maybe some of you agree with the rest of us and the
The
world.
world.
So yeah, happy
2% be heard, all right?
happy to
Freedom
hear
of speech.
happy to hear your thoughts, and please like this video, share it. We're happy that you haven't ejected this far into the video, but yeah, please don't forget to rewind afterwards. This has been Cassette Take with Ethan, Annmarie, and today Steve. Hope you have a great night, and happy Hanukkah.
Catch you on the other side.